My name is Joanna. I never used to be afraid of being home alone. But that all changed one fateful night when my parents went out of town for the weekend, leaving me alone in our old, creaky house. As darkness fell and the house grew quiet, a sense of unease settled over me. I tried to shake it off, telling myself it was just my imagination running wild. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. I decided to distract myself by watching TV in the living room. But as I sat on the couch, the sound of footsteps echoed through the empty house. My heart skipped a beat as I froze in terror, listening intently for any sign of an intruder. After what felt like an eternity, the footsteps stopped. I tried to convince myself it was just the house settling, but I couldn't shake the feeling that someone, or something, was watching me. With trembling hands, I grabbed my phone and dialed 911. My voice barely above a whisper as I explained the situation to the dispatcher. They assured me they would send someone over right away, but the thought of waiting alone in the dark filled me with dread. As I sat in silence, every creak of the floorboard sent shivers down my spine. I could feel eyes boring into me from the shadows, their gaze cold and unrelenting. Suddenly, I heard a loud crash coming from the kitchen. My heart raced as I tiptoed towards the source of the noise, my mind racing with thoughts of what could be waiting for me on the other side. When I reached the kitchen, I found the source of the noise. A window had been shattered, the glass scattered across the floor. Panic surged through me as I realized someone had broken into the house. Without hesitation, I bolted for the front door, my only thought to escape whatever horrors lurked within the darkness. As I raced into the night, the sound of sirens filled the air, a welcome sign that help was on the way. When the police arrived, they searched the house from top to bottom but found no sign of an intruder. They assured me it was probably just a break-in gone wrong, but I knew better. To this day, I can't shake the feeling that something sinister was lurking in the shadows that night, waiting for the perfect moment to strike.
Being home alone was something I'd grown used to over the years. The quiet of the house became almost comforting, like a familiar embrace. But tonight, that silence felt heavier than usual, pressing down on me like a weight. Lying in bed, I could hear every little creak and groan of the old house. It was almost soothing, in a way, like the house itself was alive, settling in for the night. Then, out of nowhere, came a loud crash from downstairs. My heart skipped a beat, and I froze, straining my ears to listen. Maybe it was just the wind knocking something over, I told myself. But deep down, I knew better. Slow, deliberate footsteps echoed through the house, sending shivers down my spine. I pulled the covers up to my chin, suddenly feeling very small and vulnerable in my big empty bed. And then, just when I thought it couldn't get any worse, I heard it, a faint rustling sound coming from the corner of my room. My breath caught in my throat as I stared wide-eyed into the darkness, my mind racing with fear. I reached out blindly, searching for something, anything, to defend myself with. But my fingers closed around nothing but air, leaving me feeling utterly defenseless. Before I could even think to scream, a hand clamped down over my mouth, cutting off any sound I might have made. I froze, my heart pounding in my chest as I stared into the shadowy figure looming over me. "Shh! Don't make a sound," they whispered, their voice low and menacing. I nodded, too terrified to speak, too terrified to move. I struggled against their grip, but it was no use. Darkness closed in around me, and my consciousness slipped away. When I woke up, I was in a hospital bed surrounded by bright lights and the sound of machines. The memories of that terrifying night flooded back, leaving me shaken. But even in the safety of the hospital room, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched.
Hi. I am Emma. In the wake of my husband's passing, our once cozy home became a refuge for me, a place where I could find solace amidst the sorrow. Surrounded by the embrace of the trees, the familiar walls seemed to shield me from the harshness of the outside world. Yet, as the days stretched into weeks, an unsettling presence began to loom within. It began with subtle disturbances, a missing apple from the fruit bowl, a half-eaten loaf of bread abandoned on the counter. Initially attributing these occurrences to my own absent-mindedness, I soon found myself unable to dismiss the mounting evidence of a more sinister force at play. Driven by a growing sense of unease, I embarked on a thorough search of every corner of the house, my heart pounding with apprehension. Yet, despite my efforts, the truth remained elusive, hiding just beyond my reach. It wasn't until I mustered the courage to ascend into the attic that the full extent of the intrusion revealed itself. Amongst the forgotten relics of years gone by, I stumbled upon a chilling sight, a makeshift bed, crudely fashioned from discarded blankets and clothing, surrounded by the telltale remnants of my missing provisions. Fear gripped me as I realized I was not alone in the confines of my own home. Someone, or something, had taken up residence in the shadows, silently feasting on my supplies while I slept just a few feet away. With trembling hands and a racing heart, I retreated from the attic, my mind awash with questions and fears. How long had this intruder been watching me? And what dark intentions lay hidden within their clandestine activities? In a panic, I dialed the emergency number, my voice trembling as I recounted the terrifying discovery to the dispatcher. Within minutes, the flashing lights of a police car illuminated the darkness outside my home. As officers carefully combed through the attic, their professional demeanor did little to assuage my fear. Yet, when they emerged with the disheveled figure in handcuffs, a wave of relief washed over me. With the intruder in custody, I felt a semblance of safety return to my home. But the scars of the invasion lingered, casting a shadow over the once familiar rooms. As I watched the police car fade into the distance, I couldn't shake the unsettling feeling that the ordeal was far from over. But for now, with the intruder behind bars, I allowed myself a moment of respite, knowing that I had taken the first step towards reclaiming the sanctuary that had been violated.
Night crept on, and the once lively household now lay in an eerie silence. I sat alone on the couch, staring at the flickering TV screen, its pale light casting long, dancing shadows across the room. Emily and Tommy, the children I had been entrusted to look after, had finally drifted off to sleep after a day of laughter and play. As the clock drew ever closer to midnight, I was overcome with a sense of unease. The dimly lit room seemed to grow darker with each passing moment, and a shiver ran down my spine as I sensed an unseen and unfathomable presence lingering at the edge of my vision. In an attempt to shake off my growing unease, I shifted restlessly on the couch and nervously glanced around the room. Everything seemed as it should be, the toys were neatly tidied away, the soft glow of the nightlight cast a cozy warmth on the hallway. But I still couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Suddenly, a barely audible whisper cut through the silence like a knife. My heart skipped a beat as I listened intently, and the hairs on the back of my neck stood on end. "Sarah," came the voice again, this time more urgent, more insistent. "Sarah, come quickly." My breath caught in my throat as I recognized the trembling voice of Emily, the eldest of the two children. Fear gripped me tightly as I rose from the couch, my legs trembling beneath me. "What's wrong, Emily?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper, my heart hammering in my chest. "I saw someone," Emily whimpered, her eyes widening in shock. "In the shadows, next to my bed. Please, Sarah, you have to help us." My mind raced as I tried to interpret Emily's words. Was it just a child's overactive imagination, or was there really something lurking in the darkness, waiting to strike? With trembling hands, I crept down the hallway, my heart pounding in my ears. Each step felt like an eternity as I approached Emily's room, and the air was thick with a suffocating dread. When I pushed open the door, I was met with a nightmarish scene. The room was shrouded in darkness, the only light coming from the soft glow of the nightlight in the corner. Shadows danced menacingly along the walls, casting twisted figures that seemed to address me with sinister intent. And then I saw it, a movement so subtle that I almost missed it. A figure, obscured by the darkness, lurked in the corner of the room. My breath caught in my throat as I stared at it, my mind reeling with fear. "Who's there?" I shouted, my voice trembling with fear and my heart threatening to burst from my chest. But there was no answer, only silence echoed back to me. With a shaky hand, I flicked the light switch and illuminated the room with a bright light. And there, in the corner, was nothing. No figure, no monster, just an empty room, filled with the quiet breathing of sleeping children. When I went to close the window, I realized that it was wide open. Before I could react, I saw someone running away outside. My heart raced as I quickly closed the window and locked it tight. Fear gripped me. The shadow that I underestimated in the bedroom was someone. I couldn't tell this story to their parents. This is the fear that keeps me awake sometimes.